Welcome to Growing the Divine. Life is a journey, and the title says it all. These episodes were filmed during times when I was processing, and you will see as you listen that there are definitely things that I changed my mind about the more that I reflected. But that's the point. We're growing the divine. We are seeing exactly how we change and how we grow and how that's better for us. And that's beautiful. I think growing up is us being who we were as children with the aspects of who we are as adults to a certain degree. I'm taking the, trauma out of it just a little bit because I'm thinking about who I was as a child as well as who I'm becoming as an adult, mixed with a little bit of astrology because, the occult, I eat it up, and seeing how that reflects. As a child, I was impatient. I was go, 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 but I couldn't. I was restricted in that way. I was very much, I want it and I want it now. I was. And I was very self-assured. I was a very confident child, like who I was at my core. I was a very confident child. I was. And who I'm becoming as an adult, as a teenager, I was very go, go, go. I got into some situations that if I had thought about it, I wouldn't have gotten into, but that allowed me to, unfortunately, learn lessons, reflect, all that stuff. I was very, very, very impatient between my teen years and early 20s, very. And I've started to harness that. People say, oh, you gotta have patience, be patient. I do have patience to a certain degree, but I'm not waiting around for things when I know that I can get them in an instant, because I can. There's a balance to it, to doing that. The most patient people that I know have been Capricorns and Virgos to a certain degree. They're very patient for certain things. And I've learned that from them. But I've also had to learn that all of who they are doesn't apply to me. I am patient in things that make sense. Waiting in line, waiting for a response from something. I've never really been like rushed in waiting for responses because I'm like, you're going to get to it when you get to it. I'm the same way. Things like that. Waiting for food, that type of stuff. I'm very patient, understanding how things work in business and retail or food places. Yeah, I'm very patient. When it comes to people naturally taking time, if there's something that's unavoidable, somebody with a bunch of orders at a place or somebody having issues ringing up something, absolutely. But if I could see you back there and I see you bullshitting and you see you bullshitting and you holding up a line or a process, I'm not going to be patient with that. And I feel like that for me, it comes with a level of self-respect. It comes with a certain amount of self-respect. I've been in places where, especially over the last few years, because people are like, fuck working. I get it. But there's a certain level of respect. You don't want to be here. I don't want to be waiting in line. Give me what I'm waiting for. But I see you bullshitting. And I see you putting all the work on that one or two people that are doing their job and you're not. Not because there's something else going on, but simply because you're bullshitting. No, I will not have patience for that. Either I'm going to bring it up or I'm going to leave. Or if it's really that serious, I'll wait, But I will bring it up. Absolutely. I'm going to bring it up. Because you're not going to play in my face. It's not a personal thing, but it really is it's just a level of self-respect that I have for myself, that I'm not going to watch you disrespect me. And if I could just simply address something, even to the tiniest amount, I have no problem doing that if I feel the desire or the need to. But I've seen people who, on the flip side of that, have no self-respect and will let people play in their face and will let people walk all over them. Those aren't all of the Capricorns and Virgos that I know, no. But I've seen the flip side of that, and I'm like, you're letting them play in your face. And you're pissed about it, and I can see you're pissed about it. But instead of directing that frustration even a little bit towards the people who pissed you off, you're going to internalize that and take it out on somebody who didn't deserve it. There's two sides to the same coin. But I also had to realize that other people's standards and what other people allow are not mine. It's like morals. We all have our own morals, despite what this religious Christian ran shit will make you believe. We all have our own set of morals. Past treating people like human and with decency and respect. My morals are not yours, and your morals are not mine, because we don't even believe the same thing. So with that in mind, we also have a right to surround ourselves with people who have similar morals to us, versus trying to make people have the same morals as us. I'm a sex worker. If somebody doesn't like sex workers but they respect humans and they leave it at that, that's perfectly fine. I don't have to be around them, and vice versa. But they're like, I don't agree with it, but you do whatever job you want to do. Well, they didn't, if they had some sense, they wouldn't even be verbalizing it, because who gives a shit about what you agree with or not? Who cares? Not a grown ass adult. But we have choices, and our choices are our own, especially when we are adults. When people say, well, this person made this decision without talking to me, well, now you have a decision to make of whether or not you want to talk to them and continue. That's your choice and nobody else's. And also, you can't blame anybody if you decide to continue with it and it doesn't work out how you want it to. That's all on you. But as far as being who I was as a child, I was very self-assured, very confident. I knew what I knew. And even if I didn't know a certain level of something, there was a way that could have been explained to me to explain what I didn't know. So now I kind of take that energy and I apply it where necessary when I deal with other adults and children. I explain things from a place of care and kindness at first. Because, like I said, I'm an Aries rising and a Scorpio sun and moon, baby. You can get the sting and the fire and the horns if you want to, but I'd rather not. I choose to keep those things at bay. But I'm becoming a little bit balanced. Through astrology, I'm realizing that who I am, how I'll succeed, how I get further is exactly who I was as a child, with more maturity. Very self-aware, very self-confident, very confident. Can't nobody tell me shit about myself. No, not about myself and who I am, because I know myself now. The same way I knew myself as a child. I knew what I didn't like. I knew what I liked. I knew what I wanted. Granted, certain things and certain people did take me out of my comfort zone, and it was needed. So I'm open to that now. It was needed so that I can have a desire to explore things that I've never experienced before. I also love that too. But going into rooms and being myself, showing up as confident and as assured and as knowledgeable and fiery and watery, because I'm emotional, as I am, is what people gravitates towards. And for so many years being surrounded by people who were the opposite of that, the only fire sign that I know is my best friend is a Leo, and one of my roommates has a Leo moon, so they get spicy. They have a Virgo sun, Scorpio rising, and a Leo moon. Yeah, so I was the only fire in my family that I knew of, because I didn't know my family's rising and moon signs. So they could have had other fiery placements. But people were always attempting to put that fire out. And when they couldn't put that fire out, the fire would get bigger. And so that's when, a child would throw a temper tantrum and all of that, because when I threw temper tantrums, and I can't speak for any other child, but it was usually at a time when I knew somebody was feeding me bullshit. Rather than say, I don't want to, or rather than say, that was before I realized I was psychic, rather than say, I don't want to, or I don't want to give that to you, or no, I don't want to do that right now, they would feed me bullshit, and I knew that it was bullshit. Unfortunately, I had to grow up really fast. I had a very mature spirit. I may not have been mature as a child, but I knew when adults were lying to me. I knew. And so I would call them out on that bullshit. And that's one thing that I realized is a gift of mine. Now I know how to word the language so that it's very sweet. That's the Scorpio side of me. It's to a certain degree manipulative, but it works out in everybody's favor. But I knew when adults were lying to me. And so what they would call a temper tantrum from a spoiled child, I'm like, no, I know bullshit. And you think because I'm a child, I'm not supposed to know bullshit when I smell it, but I do. So if you would just tell me I don't like this thing, so I just don't want you to do it, I might be like, okay. Because that's the type of child I was. If you didn't like something, I was the type of child that was like, okay, cool. Or if you didn't want to explain something to me, I was like, okay. But and there was a lot of things that adults were like, oh, I can't explain this to you until you get older. I'm like, there was a lot of things that I understood as a child that adults didn't think I should because I was a child. And it's crazy, and that's mostly because of how people view children, and it changed how I view children. There are certain topics that children just won't understand, but there are certain children that if you explain certain topics to, they may actually understand it. It's so funny, especially when it comes to black folks. We'll say, oh, this child has been here before, but then act like they're 110% stupid when we're talking to them. You don't know what they'll understand if you don't see what they'll understand. So now that I'm very self-assured, going out, talking to people, for me, when I network, like I said, that's when I get the most success. People want to pour into me. People want to hear more. They want to hear me talk. They want to either, pick my brain or assist me with things. So I'm going to do more of that unapologetically. I'm going to take up space. I'm going to be my fiery self. But it's also a twist. Growing up, I was very, very fiery, but partially because of my mother, I was very reserved a lot of times. And some of it came from always being shut down by people and attempted to be humbled. Now it's more of a, I know how fiery I can get. I know how much I can sting. So I'm reserving that for a special occasion. You can see a good amount. You can see the good part of my fieriness and wateriness, the deep, dark parts of me. But I don't feel the need to do that extra because I know who I am now. I know what I deserve now, and I'm not begging anyone for it. I know what respect and everything that I deserve and what I'm going to get. So I don't feel the need to throw temper tantrums anymore. I know when you're lying to me, and I'm going to move accordingly now because that's my power. That's my power. I see you, and I can smell. What smell what the rock is cooking? I can smell what you're giving to me, and I don't have to validate it. I mean, I don't need it validated, but I now know how to call out certain things or how to bring about certain things that just ain't making sense. So, and it's so funny. I got a tingle because when the more that we as humans and adults begin to know who we are and trust who we are and mellow out or wrap that around with adults that we're becoming, oh, we are a powerful force. We are a powerful force. They'll attempt to break it down, but one thing I've also noticed is certain traits that get people certain things are seen as negative. And that's because the people who have the things that people want, and I mean it from I mostly mean women. I'm gonna be real. Women in films, that's mostly what I mean. They'll call people manipulative and they'll call people this, that, and a third. And some of the things that people use for survival are actually things that they're supposed to use to thrive, just in a different way. I've been called manipulative before, and that was mostly when I was using it for survival. But there are ways that I have become strategic, and I'm becoming more strategic the older I get, where I now know how to, and I think I said this before, I now know how to persuade people into doing things that are in my best view, for my best, as well as their best. It's a mutual thing. And it's something that I absolutely hone in on. It's one of my best skills. This is just a reflection of certain things, like, and also watching other people as well. Someone I knew was so uncomfortable with how well I knew them, but they didn't know me as well as they thought they did. They didn't. They could only assume. And, well, they knew me, but who I was becoming, they no longer knew me anymore. And they weren't paying attention either because they were more concerned with themselves and what they were or weren't getting. But paying attention to humans and watching their interactions, you see how people, when people finally break free of society's standards. And one thing about it, grief will bring that out of you. grief, uh, when you get tired of certain things, it'll bring it out of you. Maybe not in the best way, but to me, that's the start. When I was grieving, for example, when I was grieving my mom really heavy, I had no patience for anything. I had none. And that was the beginning part of me becoming who I am now. Because I gave no fucks. There were certain things that I was allowing, in certain ways that I was, shrinking myself, that I no longer gave a fuck to do. Because in my mind back then, what is the point? And there were people who were around me who benefited from me shrinking myself, or who preferred when I shrunk myself. Like when I was pretending to be less than what I was. And sometimes it wasn't even intentional. It was because of how much shit I had gone through. So I was shrinking myself. Especially when I was shrinking myself, especially when it came to certain things that I had been through, and how it related to people being drawn to my energy, and then I didn't know how to prevent them from taking advantage of that. I didn't know or trust myself in what to look for, or whatever else, so things that come with trauma and shit. So I shrunk myself, because if I shrink myself, that means that I'll be protected from other people, and those bad things won't happen to me anymore. When I was going through the grief, I stopped shrinking myself. My favorite word during that time period was I don't care. I've said this. I don't care. What do you mean you don't care? It's so bad that you don't care. Genuinely, the shit that you care about, I do not care. I don't. And no amount of you throwing a temper tantrum, no amount of you yelling at me or anything like that will make me give a fuck. Because I don't care. Part of it was I didn't care because of what I was dealing with. And the other part was me genuinely, finally saying that I did not care. I made myself care, but I never did. I forced myself to care so that I could seem like a good person to people. But what that got me was a bunch of people around me who would tug on my heartstrings and cry. To a certain degree, it wasn't like actual crying. It was more like, oh, woe is me. But we were all adults. So I stopped giving a fuck. I was excusing people's bad behaviors, even like not things that weren't that serious, or things that people were going to grow out of. For example, someone I knew who was older than me was still living their lives like they were 16 years old. And at the time, well, I'll say about 19. And at the time, I was younger than them. So, I mean, it didn't seem like no issue to me, because I was like, that's how I was. But the older I got, the more I was like, no, motherfucker, you are supposed to be, not supposed to, but you too old for this shit. And you thought you'd get away with it because of, maybe not because I was younger, because maybe they didn't look at it like that. But you thought I was going to excuse your behavior and be okay with it. Because if I wasn't, that meant that you would have to grow up in order to keep me around. So now I'm calling you on your bullshit. And I don't care if you're crying. I don't care if you're whining. Because I got other shit on my mind right now. I don't give a fuck. That type of thing. And being around people who desperately wanted other people to give a fuck about them. They wanted, and I did to a certain degree, especially when I was younger, they wanted, or we wanted everybody to give a fuck about everything that we did. And I'm not just talking about causes, I'm talking about everything, because there was a point where we had to grow up with people who didn't. And so we still needed that support and validation from other people instead of being able to give ourselves that support and validation. I no longer look for outward support and validation because I validate myself first. Do I like compliments? Yeah. Do I like attention? Duh. If I get it, am I going to revel in it and soak up that energy? Hell yeah. But do I need it in order to be who I am? In order to do what I do? In order to go out and carve out my own path and meet people and bring my energy? No, I don't. Not anymore. Because I know who I am. Because I know what I bring. I know what my energy is. I know the influence I have over people without even saying any words. So me speaking is some powerful shit. I know my power now. And for me, that's a part of the growing up that I was talking about. Mixing. And some people may not know who they were as a child. You know, trauma and shit. Or they weren't allowed to have, well, that's trauma too. Not allowing to have a true childhood. Hell, this ain't shit real in this, reality. We can make it up. If you don't, this is how I see it. If you don't know who you were as a child, make it up. If you wanted to be a child that liked coloring, color. If you wanted to be a child that liked pretending to be a dog, go ahead and do that. If you don't feel comfortable doing it out and about, do it in your house, you know, whatever. But make it up. None of this shit is real. None of this shit is real. Just like people can make up 1,000,002 rules of what's acceptable in society in terms of like, you can't wear that, you can't do that, you can't. That shit is made up, babes. So make up your own shit. Go back if you wanted an imaginary friend. Go make it up. If you got kids, pretend like you got an imaginary friend with them. I do feel like sometimes people have children or are supposed to have children to bring out that inner child that they probably weren't allowed to be. You know, hopefully they can do that without the child having trauma. But I'm watching some people and I'm seeing how some people are healing through their children. And I mean like actually healing through their children. Like they're having a lot more fun now. And I love that for them. They're, you know, if their children are doing something, they're playing with their kids and stuff when they never really played when they were younger. And it's sad that they had to do that, but you know, it's also a good thing because children are very healing. They are. Currently not for me to be around, you know, for long periods, but children are very healing. They are gifts. They're beautiful, miraculous gifts that belong in this world and belong to in our to be protected and to be covered. One thing I realized, I'm realizing a lot, not always, but I realized that for me right now, it might be for me to be around kids. Like I've been thinking about incorporating that so that I can, you know, have more space to play. And I have been someone who has validated kids in their feelings and, you know, if they wanted to play, I'd play with them. I'm good with kids, you know. It's just that on the responsibility side, there's certain things that you can't be and do when you have children. I'm like, I was that my entire life to a certain degree. So I'm like, right now, I want to be able to just go out and just be right now. So that's pretty much why I want to go out and not have a care in the world past, the shit everybody else has to care about. But that's another level of responsibility that not right now, not for long. I'm watching people and I'm seeing a lot of people connect to who they were as children or even bring out maybe they never were, and they're experiencing it for the first time. And I love that for them. They're playing and dreaming and having fun, doing things that they, oh, you're not supposed to do that, or you're supposed to work 24/7. They're doing nothing and watching cartoons and things. They're, some people are doing it in excess, so they're not as focused on their goals as they should be. I had a Pisces friend that was like that. Of course, because they had to escape, basically. I just exhaled because it's not my responsibility to be that for people, but I know what kind of influence I have on people. So there are certain people that I'm thinking about that I could give a good little nudge to that would help, like in a boat, will help cast them off in the right direction, and wherever you end up because you've grown. But I've noticed that the longer I go without being in certain people's lives, sometimes their lives can go in a way that, and it's going to sound like I want control, but knowing these people going in a way that they might not actually have wanted it to go. They've been influenced by like real hard, restrictive people. And I can tell I'm like, who you are at your core, I don't think you're going to be happy doing this for long. I can't see it. I mean, you might need to go that route so you can come back around the river bend and figure out who you actually are by yourself. But sometimes even if I've had conversations with people that has gotten them thinking, and they're like, you know what, I actually don't want this, or I actually do want to do X, Y, and Z. And I got to stop talking to so-and-so because every time I do, they end up guilting me into doing what, like, for example, working jobs that you don't actually want to work. When you're a dreamer and you want to actually go for something, if you've been around people who are very structured or have had to do certain things for survival, and you got to do what you got to do, you got to get out here and hustle type of energy, and that's not what you want, you may have to limit your time around them. You may have to limit your time in conversation with them so that you can focus on what it is that you do want. You want. Because people have a way of projecting their fears and their own traumas and bad decisions on the other people. And not in a way of, I see you going the same route I was going, just, be a little mindful. Just check in with yourself to make sure you aren't, doing things that might bite you in the butt later on. Just a little chat. But if you don't think you are, okay, cool. Not sharing their experience to try to give someone a little bit of perspective, but for example, because I love an example. And what do they call it? I'm still trying to wake up. Story, analogy, whatever. I know someone whose parent very cold, and it's because it's trauma, and they're also a Capricorn. Trauma, Saturn, and they've made so many wrong decisions financially in their life that now they're literally in the shithole. They went from traveling the world to being in a shithole because they were constantly chasing money even probably falling for scams and gambling left and right because they were still acting from a place of desperation. Had okay money, literally, because that's the thing I don't like about Capricorns. You could have good money and you're still chasing, that's the key word. Chasing a bag, hustling. Where Capricorns, they may have to have a certain level, or people like that may have to have a certain level of discipline, but they are supposed to be on the receiving end of certain things after a while. Once you have all that discipline, you're supposed to go out and play, not out of desperation or you trying to get a boatload of money, but genuinely enjoying themselves. And I do know of a Capricorn now that is genuinely enjoying herself, and I love that for her. Because the only time she would enjoy herself truly was when she was around us. And we would kind of like shake her out of that restrictive mode. But this person is now literally in a shithole. And they're talking to their child and convincing them to work jobs that they don't want to work because underneath it all, one, they may be afraid that they're going to end up in their situation. But two, they actually want them to take care of them. They want the child to take care of the parent because they made some fucked up decisions. So now they're guilting the child not child because the person is in their 30s, but they are, every time they talk to them, they come away sounding less and less like themselves. And because this person is such a dreamer, this person's a Leo, they're such a dreamer, and it's such a very powerful energy. Yeah, they might be good at whatever they do, but this person is meant to be, I mean, not meant to be, because, people have their own lives. They're going to be a star regardless. I just don't like seeing people make decisions for their lives, especially permanent ones or long-term ones, based on the fears of other people and not their own desires and wants. I don't think that's fair to people. It's your choice. And you may come, like I said, circle back around and be who you always wanted to be. But that, I've seen what that does to people. And people change. Sometimes it's a good thing that they change because maybe they needed that element of growing up. So they had to work certain jobs or whatever. But other times, my first girlfriend joined the Air Force. And the last time I saw her, I didn't recognize her. She looked broken. She was an Aries. She looked broken and miserable because it was the opposite of who I knew her to be. She was an artist, photography, art, all of that. I haven't seen her in years, but the last time I did, I didn't recognize her. Literally and energetically. So it's like, it's sad to me to see people become who other people want them to be and not who they are at their core. It's sad to see people be broken down so bad by other people's standards and fears, rules, in terms of like, well, white supremacy, let's be real. That's where it all stemmed from. But well, not just white supremacy, but capitalism, misogyny. But it's just like I know, I see who you are. And this might be who you became, but that's not who you are. And in reference to maybe some people have to work certain jobs or do certain things for like discipline or to mature, sometimes people don't know when it's time to leave certain places too. So that's fine if there's a job. I don't mean like not working a job, period, especially if you feel better and more secure paying bills. No. But some people, because of other people's fears and shit, will stay in a place way past its expiration date and be fearful of leaving because they don't think they're going to get anything better. They don't think they are going, not because of the job market, fuck that, but because of who they are and what this person or people have made them feel like. They may hang on to a place and suffer because of it, because they stayed way past the expiration date, because they were still afraid of going after the things that they actually want, so they never do. So they stay stuck in one place, and it drains their energy, their life, who they are, their substance, like their inner being, and they become a shell of who they used to be. I've seen that. Hell, I got people like that in my family. My aunt was the first police officer and first female police officer in a certain district in DC. I can't remember what it was. And she was the only woman for years. And I'm pretty sure she's a Gemini. And sometimes I could see that Gemini, the best part of Gemini in her. And it was usually when she was around me. And sometimes I could see that worst part. And I'm like, that came from trauma. But also that came from you having to stay at a place for way too long. You may have gone in there with good intentions, but you would have had to leave soon for it to not drain you. And that makes me sad. It's never too late for someone to be who they are. It's never too late. That's my thing. It's just sad that it has to happen at all, you know? It's just so sad. Because it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't have to be that way. People should be able to live their lives to the fullest. Be able to do the things that they want to do. Soar, everything. And have support for that. I've learned that for a lot of people, I am that support. But I've seen what it can do when people feel like you're their only support. And I don't want to be that for people. Because what if you decide you don't want to be friends with me anymore? You should still be able to hold on to knowing that you can be all of those things without me. I should not be your only piece of good support, and two, only person in your life that's pushing you to be your best, and not just monetarily, but like creatively, emotionally, if you're funny, embracing that and telling you that you're funny or you're creative or I don't know, you're organized, whatever it is that you do. You should, the way that I'm going about it in this teaching, coaching space is the trusting yourself aspect and the knowing and trusting yourself aspect. I would prefer that people leave me knowing and trusting themselves and not feel like that they only know and trust themselves and feel like they could do anything because of me. I've always known that, but I didn't know it until I talked to someone a while ago, about over a year ago, and they were like, you make me feel like I could do anything. And I'm like, it kind of like freaked me out a little bit because I'm like, I don't want that for you. But I'm like, you can do anything. That's the thing, you can. Because it's already in you. It's just that, trauma, programming, other people's shit, our parents' shit, we don't believe that. But if you are, once you go on a journey to discover who you are and trust that that's good enough, that shit is unshakable. You have to be arrogant. You have to be arrogant and demanding when it comes to who you are. No, I'm not accepting less than that. Nope. I don't believe I have to. Or if you look at it a different way, like a starter house, I'm being in this house and in this space so I can know what it's like to not be in the other space. I can know what it's like to care for a space at this level so that when I get, if you want a bigger space or, whatever it is, I can know what it's like to take care of that if you don't already have that mindset. But accepting less because people told you you have to, bullshit. Bullshit. Well, you gotta know I don't. I don't. That's like all of the coaching classes that I took. People were like, if you give away all of your knowledge, don't charge out the gate if you don't know what. Baby, I know what I know. I'm charging. I know what I know. I'm charging. First of all, my ancestors did enough free labor, and most of the classes that I was taking came from white folks because they were the ones that have been, allowed to develop their classes and developed all of their things. The few black women that I've seen, they never talk about doing free shit. They always like, how to develop your business into being able to charge for this much. The black women I've been watching, they don't give that. It's been the white men and the white women I've watched. A lot of information, but that mindset has stuck out. And I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. I know what I know. Now, I will help people and assist people if I feel called to for no charge. Sure. And for experience to a certain degree. But, give this away to 100 people and do this and do that and do free labor because that's what's required of you. That's what you should do. How dare you ask for money? How dare you charge when you're new? Baby, I don't care if I don't know how to do a two-step. If I want to charge for people to watch me dance, I'm going to charge. That's capitalistic bullshit. Now, if it's something more skilled, that's a different story. Don't be somebody's OBGYN. You don't have. But at the same time, that kid that was pretending to be an OBGYN, nobody sniffed him out for a while because he was so smart. He was very smart. Of course, that's weird. But he was that smart that people believed that he was an actual OB-GYN. People believed it. That's the crazy part. Because he was that confident in the shit that he knew. And as far as I know, nobody said that he gave any wrong information. I think the last I checked on that, they said that like he was like truly like a child genius. And he was like, well, I could do this shit. That was my first glimpse into how dare you tell me I shouldn't charge when I know for a fact that I know a lot. And you could quiz me on this shit. And I know a lot. That can apply everywhere because, there's certain things that do have guidelines and do have certain techniques and rules you do have to follow because if you don't, it'll fuck everything up. I wouldn't want to go, even though I'm very experienced with the human skin and the human body, I wouldn't want to be a dermatologist because I'm not proficient in that field. I know what I know as an esthetician, not a dermatologist. Or like, I'm not going to say I'm 110% a mechanic because I know how to do a few basic things on a car. But if I can't figure out everything, I'm not going to say that I know everything. There's levels to it. But I know. And that's a part of my Ariesness. I have said, I've been proven right. Things I already knew. But I've been proven right by big corporations. People have watched certain pages that I have because I am connected in certain ways with people, even the people that don't make themselves known. And they have done certain things exactly the way that I said it. For example, I suggested that the girls in modeling wherever, but mostly adult industry, online, start getting into golf. If you're into golf, front page of the OnlyFans page in June of this year was a girl, a very popular, I guess, model, golfing. That was the huge post on the page. Hey, if you don't want to believe that I had something to do with that, you don't have to. But I know. That's fine. So I'm like, if I've been proven right multiple times, even without astrology, because I have recognized patterns, but also I've had weird dreams that have told me what shit was going to do. I know. But I also am someone who can say when I don't know, or I got to figure it out or find out more information or ask 3 people before I tell you. I know. So I'm charging. Because all of the years of work and research and studying and shit that I've done, it would be disrespectful, bringing it right back around, disrespectful to myself to do this work for free. When people say, well, it's self-esteem or self-respect, that would be me lowering my self-respect. That, and I've seen people who wanted the information that I knew just because they wanted to know, and have wasted my time and energy with the free information. And either did nothing with it or took it, stole it, and ran off with it. I've seen it happen many times. I've had it happen many times. So to tell me, a black woman, that I should be doing free labor, baby, go fuck yourself. Matter of fact, don't even do that. That's too much, not too niceness of a compliment. Go sit on a fence and spin. Hell no. Because I was about to give free labor. And I'm still going to give some free information because, like, the basics, I feel like there's certain groups of people that deserve to know the basics. And, like, where to start if they want to do their own research. But to know how I do things, how I would do things, to know what I think, what I would plan, how I would market, all of these things, now you got to pay me. You got to pay me. The information I choose to give out is the free labor. That one-on-one shit, because that's the funny thing about these courses. You got to do free one-on-ones for reviews. No, I don't. The way that I teach, the way that I give information, people trust me out the gate. So if you have to do further, free shit, to me that means that you're not communicating your skill set in a good way where people can trust you. Now, if you wanted to do it for experience, like, for example, there's this one ad woman that I like. She gives out a lot of free information, but she's done free sessions for people in other industries so she can know how their industry works. That's different. Because she came from television, so she helped with, I think, somebody in construction or something like that. But it was pretty much the same because she was running, it was like marketing and running ads and stuff. It was the same, at the base, but she was learning other industries and seeing how that worked. That's different. If you want that. But no, and that in humans, unless somebody is genuinely like, I really want to learn and I just can't, I don't know where to start, I'm confused and I can't afford shit. That's me choosing to do that. But to say it's required of me, I don't like people telling me something's required of me when it's not. If it is, yeah, sure, I respect that. But if it's not, especially for me, I've gone through certain training and stuff that was not necessary for me, and it was a waste of time. Because I already knew so much about what I was doing. I actually didn't need the training. I didn't. I was actually training the trainer. Because I grasped so much. And I was like, well, why don't y'all do this? And why don't y'all do that? Or have y'all considered doing X, Y, and Z? Like, I was training the trainer. And people don't like when you're that confident and arrogant, but that's not my problem. I mean, not arrogant, because arrogant comes with disrespect. When you're that confident in yourself and that self-assured, a lot of people, inferior people, can't stand it. My stomach growling. And I say inferior only because they don't see that and say, maybe I should be that confident in my skill set. They say, oh, how dare you? And oh, you being that confident means there's something not good about me. That's how, they view it. But no, I am not doing labor for free because it's a requirement. This is my business. I can do what the fuck I want to. That's the beautiful part. Imagine white supremacy. Imagine still trying to have so much control over how other people operate that you are still trying to tell other people how to run their business. And not because there are certain practices or certain things you have to do in business, like licensing or whatever. No, but simply because you couldn't do something or you couldn't hack it in a certain way. So you have these rules for other people. When I speak, people listen. When I speak, people trust what the fuck I say out of my mouth. Because I speak with authority. And I don't speak on shit I don't know. If I don't know something, I'm going to say, I don't have no fucking clue. I can find out if I care. But I don't know. You going to ask them, honey, because I have no clue. But people listen to me, obviously. And they trust what I say. And through speaking or even writing, I prove that I know what I'm talking about. So I've had people in my DMs in different areas, in different industries, ask me, how much do you charge for one-on-ones and coaching? People have come to me asking me that. And I've given away, from the information I've given away and chosen to give away. So that told me right there, baby, I'm charging high out the gate. The girls who get it, get it. The girls who don't, don't. It is not my job to prove my worthiness to other people, especially on platforms where I'm already doing that. If you don't feel connected to me proving my worthiness like that, then you're not my target audience. And I'm not going to prove that I am to you because you should already see it. That goes back to me being very self-assured when it comes to who I was as a child. You are not going to tell me something that I know to be true. You're not. I am open to learning. I love learning from people, especially people who know way more than I do. Please teach me. I will pay you. But you're not going to attempt to humble me because you feel like either I have it too easy, which I don't. Either I'm better at communicating than you are, which I probably am, but you could always learn more. I've been taking courses on how to communicate better, how to explain myself better. Maybe you feel like you had to do all this work, so I do too. Cute for you. I don't have to. I don't live by your rules, especially not in my business. That's the point of me doing this entrepreneurial shit. So I can run my business however the fuck I feel called to. And you're still attempting to tell people how they should run their business and not in the way of there are certain things that work. Maybe that's all you know to work. Is giving away your labor 100 times for free. Maybe that's all you know. That's cool. That's what worked for you, girl. Honey. Child. But that's not the route I'm going. Nope. Every single time I attempted to write free guides for people, something stopped me. And that was because that was my intuition telling me, nah, don't do that. Charge for that information. If they want it, they'll pay for it. Or they'll find another way. Or they'll go somewhere else. Or they'll completely enter into another industry. But there's so much information out here. And people have said that when people are charging for information people can find online, that's the thing. Not everybody is doing the work that you're doing. Not everybody is doing the research or want to do the research that you're doing. So for you to expect that people, like there's certain things that I know I could research that I've paid other people to teach me. I could research how to do copywriting and storytelling. I have a 4 hour long video where the guy is breaking down everything in copywriting. I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm tired of watching videos. I'm ready to move on to something else. And I paid for a membership, and I pay for a membership every month. And it's like a storyteller's membership. And I was like, I like that better. And I love it. Not everybody has the forethought. Not everybody has the, what do you call it? The starter thing. And also with the school system, come on now, let's be real. How many people are actually taught to question shit and do research? Maybe you were, just like I was. Like my mother made sure I knew how to do research. But not everybody was. The American school system sucks ass. And it's getting worse. They're training children and have been training children to be obedient and to learn how to work their tech and their computers and stuff or whatever, and learn how to be machines working on machines. They're not teaching free thought and questioning things, because that's not how you control people, baby. So there's a bunch of people who, I think Megan Thee Stallion said it in a song, was like the type of people that read the bold font. They don't read anything beyond that. So when I teach and when I gather information, I gather information for people who may not have been taught how to do that, or might not even have the energy to do it. Do you know how much energy it takes to do all that research? I've done hundreds of hours, probably thousands by this point, of research. And that has taken a lot out of me. So I was like, anybody who may be sick or just mentally exhausted, they might not want to have to dig through all them hours and hours and thousands of pages of information. Like, I read it, but they may want, the basics. They may want the summary, the footnotes of it. They may want only the information, because to be honest, a lot of it was fluff. A good amount of it was fluff that I was reading. Like, they could have shortened them articles to 2 paragraphs. Same with some pages. I mean, some, what do you call it? Not pages, like research pages. I'm like, some of this was fluff. Most of this was not information that I needed. Or like 1,000 examples like I like to give. And I'm like, I don't need examples when I'm learning. Some people do, but I don't need examples when I'm learning. I give examples when I'm teaching, but sometimes I don't need that. I just need all the information. So I think I'm going to do it that way. I think I'm going to do it both ways. Giving examples and without, when it comes to my teaching. And people can choose which way they want to, read. Knowing who I am, knowing my gifts, trusting myself, knowing the knowledge that I bring, how smart I am, and incorporating that with being more mature and being able to say what I don't know. Not speaking on things that I have no clue about. Not being loud and wrong. Because I've been loud and wrong as a teenager before. Absolutely. And not, being able to say and not be offended when people are, well, people rarely call me out because I make sure that I'm right. But if people's like, I think you misread that, I'm like, really? Maybe I did. Well, what'd it say? I don't have a problem doing that anymore, because I know it's not a hit to my ego, because I know what I know. Growth. That's what that is. And honestly, that's what I want for so many people. Hopefully people can get that. Just the basis of being able to know who they are and trust who they are. Because, you know a lot. And you probably know a lot more than I know in certain areas. I'm pretty sure you do. I don't know everything. I'm kind of glad I don't. There are certain things that I am absolutely a dumb blonde on. And I embrace it. I'm like, no, that's too many words for Elmo. Can you please do it for me? That's a big word for Elmo. Can you please do it for me? Thank you. Especially when it comes to men doing labor. I don't know how to do that. You do it so much better. Can you do it for me, please? It's a boost to their ego and it's labor that I don't have to do. Win-win.